Greetings, everyone. We in Off the Desk with By the Law Culture interact with academicians and professionals in their field from all over the world. Today, in our inaugural session, we will discuss about the abrogation of Article 370. The article was revoked 1 year ago, and so to discuss about that, we have with us Dr. Shesh Paul Vaid, who will share his views on the same. Dr. Shesh Paul Vaid served as Director General of Police, Jammu and Kashmir from 2016 to 2018. Sir has been honored by many distinguished awards like in 1998, Sir was honored with Director General of Police, Jammu and Kashmir Medal. In 2001, Sir was honored with Indian Wound Medal. So in 2001, Sir was honored with Internal Security Medal, and in 2002, Sir was honored with Police Medal for Gallantry. In the same year, Sir was honored with Sher Kashmir Police Medal for Meritorious Service. In 2002, Sir was honored with Police Medal for Meritorious Service. In 2008, Sir was honored with Chief of Army Staff Commendation Card. And in 2010, Sir was honored with President's Police Medal for Distinguished Service. Sir, it's an honor to have you with us, and we thank you that you spared time for us. Yes, sir. Sir, you have served as Director General of Police of one of the most sensitive states, which is now a union territory. So, how do you think the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir before 5th August 2019 has changed with respect to development and also law and order situation with the abrogation of Article 370?
See, with the abrogation of Article 370 on 5th August last year, a lot of things have changed. Number one, two union territories have been kept out of this erstwhile state. So Ladakh becomes a separate union territory and Jammu and Kashmir becomes a separate union territory, which though union government has promised will be upgraded to the state. So first major impact is that it becomes a union territory, which means now directly under the control of Union Home Ministry and Government of India. So it is now, as long as it remains a union territory, it continues to be administered under the union government. So that major administrative difference comes, number one. Number two, the discourse actually changes with the abrogation of Article 370 going. Earlier it was autonomy, self-rule and all those separatist slogans. Now, restoration of the statehood. So, see how the discourse has changed. Then the separatist forces led by Hurriyat, who were working on the behest of Pakistan, have now become totally disarray because NIA and other central agencies went after them. So they have been completely now marginalized. So no more separatist movement which they were leading and radicalizing the youth and making some of them as terrorists. So that change is also a big change which has come. Then lot of central laws now apply directly to the union territory or ex-state of Jammu and Kashmir, which were earlier not applicable. So roughly 5 lakh people who were denied basic right, human right of being a citizen for last 7 decades. They were West Pakistan refugees who came to India. Those who went to rest of India became citizen of India, but those who came and settled in Jammu region of the state, it's their misfortune that all the erstwhile rulers of Jammu and Kashmir denied them citizenship. Even if you go to some other country, after some few years, you become citizenship of that, you get citizenship of that country. They were denied even that basic right. Like two more communities, Balmiki community and Nepalis, who were living here since the Maharaja's days, but also denied citizenship. Now they are all eligible. Those 5 lakh plus people will become citizen of Jammu and Kashmir. So that is again a big change which has come. Similarly, the All India Services officers and Central Services officers who were serving in J&K were not able to settle here. They were not able to get state subject, not able to get a house built or employment. Now they're all eligible. So they were not getting that right even after serving for 3.5 decades in the state. Look at what our laws, this 370 had harm, how much it has done. So that these people were denied basic right. That is also now restored. So many discriminatory laws which suited the then rulers only, they were applied, which did not suit them, they did not apply. They did not, because every law passed by parliament was to be approved by the state assembly. So it was at the whims and fancies of the rulers in the state that what suited them. They, like, I'll give one example. There was our assembly passed a act that term of the assembly will be 6 years. So rest of India, the term of the assembly is 5 years. So it did not suit them, so they did not apply this. So because it suits every legislator that their term remains 6 years. So they did not apply what was applicable the rest of India, 5 years term. Similarly, many other laws which were not applicable now are applicable to every citizen. Now it has brought everyone at par.
So, as the top police chief, how did the security agencies cope up with operations when internet telephone services were suspended completely, when the special status was scrapped? As post Burhan Wani incident, there was almost negligible human intelligence, and security agencies were only relying on technical intelligence.
See, after the Burhan Wani, when I was special DG Law and Order, when Burhan Wani thing happened, the total breakdown of law and order happened, and after 2 months, it happened somewhere around, I think, August, 7th or 8th July, and I was appointed as special DG Law and Order and Coordination on 10th of September. So about roughly 2 months after this. So I realized that many areas were cut off. There were no operations because no human intelligence was coming. The people were scared after massive breakdown of law and order post Burhan Wani. But then slowly we had to depend on technical intelligence. So internet and telephones were being monitored. So through those, we could get technical intelligence. So with the help of technical intelligence, we started operations. And there was a very good synergy and coordination between Jammu and Kashmir Police, Army and CRPF and other paramilitary forces. So slowly we started achieving successes against top commanders of the terrorist organization. And as we achieved successes, so even human intelligence started pouring in, and a lot of successful operations were conducted on the basis of human intelligence, which we got from the local Kashmiri people. So that is how we were able to successfully eliminate a lot of top commanders and break their backbone.
So Jammu and Kashmir as a state and now as a union territory has given us some of the most brilliant minds. Do you think that state will have more advantage in terms of education and professional opportunities after abrogation of Article 370?
Yes, I think integration of the state with the rest of India will definitely open up avenues to the local youth of many central services, many private sectors which actually was not operating. Now, once these youth get integrated, they have central universities. Now they will have medical colleges. They will have all these IIT, IIM. So all the National Law School, Indian Institute of Mass Communication. All these institutions are coming up with the help of Government of India. So these will definitely open up a lot of avenues for the local youth. And uh, even in terms of private sector, I'm told a lot of investment has been promised, but somehow because of COVID situation, it got stalled. As things improve in terms of COVID, these investments will also open up, and a lot of private sector, I am hopeful, will start their industries and their other IT parks and other um enterprises in Kashmir Valley and rest of Jammu and Kashmir. And it will definitely open up avenues for a lot of young boys from Kashmir and Jammu and Ladakh. These are very brilliant people, you know. There was one topper in the civil services from Kashmir Valley. A lot of boys from Jammu and Kashmir have been and Ladakh have been getting selected into not only civil services, the IITs and IIMs and national law schools and all other brilliant institutions.
So you being the native of Jammu, how do you, as a native and not as a bureaucrat, see the developments in the Union Territory post abrogation of Article 370?
Like all other local people, I'm also hopeful that with the drive of Prime Minister Modi in the union government, who is known for his acumen for development in Gujarat and is also leading development drive in the rest of India. Unfortunately, this COVID happened. This is very unfortunate. No one expected this. So it has stalled development projects. A lot of people have lost their jobs, no doubt about all across the world. And so is the impact in India and Kashmir as well. But as things improve on the front of COVID, I'm sure from next year onwards, development activity will pick up. And I am also hopeful that some change in terms of infrastructure, in terms of metros, in terms of IT park, in terms of many other industries, in terms of horticulture, agriculture, I expect a lot of changes in the years to come.
For the general population and civilians, how as a bureaucrat would you explain the most pressing problem in the Union Territory? And do you see that problems getting resolved or addressed after the abrogation of Article 370?
See, most pressing problem in Kashmir is disillusioned and disgruntled youth, which actually gives opportunity to Pakistan to exploit. So we need to have a multi-pronged strategy to address this, how to engage the youth in constructive activity, because there are not much employment opportunities. Everyone is looking for government jobs. The government jobs are not that many available. You can't have everyone employed on the government job sector. So private sector is not there. Earlier there used to be, before militancy, tourism, which is now has come down drastically. And there's hardly any industry, there's hardly any private sector. So all these need to now be picked up as militancy comes under control. These things must pick up: infrastructure, industries, horticulture, agriculture, and tourism. Tourism is the mainstay of Kashmir. And all these activities, once they pick up, every hand should be engaged. I want to see days when everyone feels that his stakes lie in India and he has something to look forward to. So that we need to take care of. But the most important aspect which I am worried is Pakistan will not stop radicalizing and its propaganda, anti-India propaganda. So as long as internet remains, they will continue to misuse internet, which they have been using for last many years. So we need to come out, I have been repeatedly saying this, with a technological solution to filter all anti-India propaganda by Pakistan.
Does scrapping of the special status will in any way change the law and order situation in the Union Territory? Or do you feel, sir, that Jammu and Kashmir with special status or without it will in practically have no effect on the law and order situation?
No, scrapping of special status will partially has an impact. Like, uh, see, trouble does not go. Only one thing is that Ladakh separated. So you are now only focusing on Kashmir. Jammu region as it is, there's not much of militancy and law and order problem. Few districts of Kashmir are only creating problems, so they need to be addressed. So focus remains now on that. Number two, uh, Hurriyat, which was basically separatist force and poisoning the minds of young boys on the behest of Pakistan and ISI, is now has been dealt with through NIA and other central agencies, and it is in disarray. So that change has come because they are no more able to get Hawala money and pay to the stone pelters to create law and order situation and do stone pelting whenever encounter takes place. No, that change has come, and that pressure of the security forces and central agencies should continue. That's my suggestion to government of India and government of JN.
So at last, your message to our audience who majorly comprises of young law students.
Be positive in life. Have firm faith in yourself, your abilities, and always remember that there is a divine force inside all of you, which is undertaking this journey. You are only an instrument in his hands to do some activity in this life and then pass on to the rest, the next generation.